What's up, guys? My name is Robbie Horstman. I'm a cycling rehab specialist. I mostly work with cyclists with back pain and sciatica. Been a PT for 12 years. I do this all online, but that's not really why you're here. You're here because this video says structuring a cycling specific strength workout. So let's dive right into that. As a cyclist, there is a strong case to be made that you should be strength training. Now, whether you've lifted a lot in the past and not so much now, maybe you're in the gym now, but what you've been doing has kind of gotten stale, or you're not sure if it's attacking your goals. Maybe you've really never lifted. You recognize the importance though, and you want to get started. I've created this video to lay out a specific framework of how you can structure a strength training workout for maximum efficiency and effectiveness. If I think about the reasons why I don't golf, chief among those is that it would eclipse my cycling time. Like I'd be golfing, I wouldn't be cycling, and I want to ride on the weekends, not go golf for 6 hours. So I take that same approach to strength training. Look, we want to get stronger, we want to be healthier, but really we want to ride our bikes. So how can we use that as a tool to make sure that we can ride well, that we're super healthy, but that we don't have to spend all of our time doing it? That's where efficiency comes in. Then when it comes to structuring it right, we want to make sure that if we're doing it at all, we're doing it effectively. So we've got to knock that piece to the ground there, open the hood, take a look, make sure that everything is as it should be to make sure we're getting the result that we want based on our goal. So a couple of things from the top. I believe you can get quality work in 30 to 60 minutes. I think time to complete here for this framework being 45 to 60 is super reasonable. And really, you're probably looking at 1 time or 2 times a week, depending on what part of the season you're in. Another thing I want to key on is that we're not going to be going to failure on anything. Ultimately, we don't want to be smoked and pedaling squares, and we can get major strength gains without ever going to failure. So let's dive right in. And I'll tell you up front, there are 5 parts to this video. We're going to talk purposes of strength training and goals. And then we're going to get into the 4 phases that I'm suggesting that you implement and that I want you to be able to implement like tomorrow after watching this video to structure an awesome strength workout. Now, after each section, I will give you examples in video of exactly what you could do there. Now, you can steal that entire workout. I don't mind if you do. That said, my big aim here is to give you the framework to create your own based on what your goal is and based on what your body needs. So again, go ahead and copy it, but I would like to teach you how to fish versus just give you a pile of fish here. Okay, so let's talk why. What's the goal if I'm going to spend time in the gym getting stronger? Let's go with performance. You're asking 2 key questions here. What do I need to work on, and how does that goal help me to structure this workout? And then you want to look at what are the things that I can look back at to determine if I'm having success. So that's your power numbers, or even just how you feel. But ultimately, you want to be able to say with clarity, yes, this is working for me, or I have to go back to the drawing board. And that's going to apply for all of these particular whys. Of course, overall health, big reason, very valid reason. Now, that's going to help you in your exercise guidance as well. Then you're looking at, cool, what am I tracking? Whether it be, say, even lab tests, if we want to go really technical, whether it be, how do I feel? Do I feel healthy overall? And what am I going to use to measure that? That's a key to determining success across the board. Now, let's say we have a painful problem and we want to go at it and make sure that we're addressing all of the pieces that we need to put in place in order to get past that and ride pain-free. We really need to be strategic in our exercise selection and in our measurement of how we're feeling. Seeing pain come down as comfort comes up is the way that we're going to measure that. Now, that's not as concrete as, say, lab testing or power output, but we do want to have the ability to check back and say, okay, am I moving in the right direction here? Or again, do I need to go back to the drawing board? Now, of course, there's others. Body composition or preventing injury could be 2 other reasons as well, but you get the idea. How do I select my exercises based on my goal? And then what am I using to measure my success? Again, based on your specific goal. So the first part of this workout is going to focus on hip and pelvis mechanics. Why? That is where you're going to put out power on the bike. So you want to make sure that your hips, pelvis, and spine are moving together Yeah, there's other important factors as well, but that's really where it all starts. So this is going to be 3 exercises basically done as a circuit. So you're going to go 1, 2, 3, a little bit of rest probably, 1, 2, 3, a little bit of rest probably. And then if there's a third set in there, so it'll be either 2 to 3 sets, you're going to hit that set all over again for 3 in total. Now, here's a little bit of a nugget. You need some awareness as to where you're limited and what you need to work on. That's going to guide your exercise choices specifically. So at this point, let's go into 3 exercises that I will use with myself and with the athletes I work with on a regular basis to accomplish this goal, part 1 of the workout. Let's roll the tape. So there's several components to this. Functionally, you're doing a clamshell, but we're going to make it way harder. So you're going to get set up 990 position. That's hips relative to the spine and knees 90-90. You're going to get the base of the big toe onto that wall. Now we'll move it up a little bit, as you can see I've done there, but I'm going to key on the base of the big toe. I don't care where the other foot is. You can move it out of the way, but that action is going to be to raise my knee and then let it drop on the top side. Now, with each repetition, I'm going to use that hip pelvis slide where I slide my knee forward and then I raise. So I'm tapping the toe there. I want that to stay down. What that does is it really authentically activates the glutes. So there's my hip shift there. And our repetitions are going to be once I push that knee down, I'm raising my leg up while maintaining that big toe contact. If you're doing this correctly, it'll really isolate the glutes and you'll feel that right there. If you're a little sloppy with it, you won't be getting that same activation and you'll realize it. Usually you'll see that along with a lifting of the forefoot up off the wall like that, and it'll get pretty sloppy. Check the reps. It won't be as many as you think. You'll find that a low volume of high quality reps is plenty. With your hips at 90 degrees relative to the torso and your knees at 90 degrees, you've got that foam roller between the legs, slight squeeze, and you are rolling up into internal rotation at the hip. Do not strain. Take what you can get.
So these are the cousin to the adductor slide. You're going to feel a lot more work though. So using a foam pad or something a couple inches high, one knee is off, shoulders square and even, so they're not elevated on anything. And you're going to not hike, but you're going to drive that hip upwards. When I think hip hike, I think pelvis towards your rib cage. Drive upwards rather than hike. Just a little semantics there. Taking a look at it from the side here. So we get set up there. And it's a drive so that we bring the pelvis into alignment there. Might get a little bit of twist in the back, but we don't want a ton of it. And this should start to feel like a lot of work in the back and the core. So it's very subtle. This version we'll call the sloppy version. There is a stricter version, but I'm giving you the sloppy version for now.
The second part of this framework is the key mobility work that you're going to be doing. Now, I'll mention this, these exercise examples here. This graphic is going to be repurposed in the future, so you can ignore these post-it notes for now. If you watch in the future, you're going to see these come up in different presentations. So with mobility, we're looking at pushing off the dock. Why? Well, if you can't move well, then you're basically tied to the dock. You're not out in the water. You can't actually move. You can't actually sail. Here, we want to keep things really, really controlled. So we're looking at 1 to 2 key movements. And the nugget here is that we're working on multi-joint movements and motions rather than just one joint or muscle. Looking at things a little bit more granularly, we should have a mobility workout that we're doing on a regular basis as well to take care of the specific mobility work we need. And when we add it to the strength work, it's really just a supplement to make sure that we're ready for the rest of the workout. It's not necessarily our full mobility workout. Now, sure, you could do full mobility workout before and then just delete this part from the framework. But again, I'm looking at efficiency and effectiveness. I really like to structure the mobility for 15 minutes, 3 to 4 days a week. Then with the strength work, I take that mobility. I say, okay, we're not going to do it all. We're going to do things that complement our normal mobility work. We need to push off the dock. We need to be able to move in order to sail in the first place. So I'll give you 2 things right here. We'll roll the tape and check out exactly what that might look like. So here we have band attached to something firm above us, and we're going to go to full range, bending of the knee, get a quad stretch, and press out against it. This is a posterior chain stretch, basically. We are looking for mobility, hamstrings, calf, and through the glutes as well. We do not want any sciatic discomfort here. So nothing worse afterwards, certainly. Now, back is basically flat. You're in a pure hip hinge. We're going to start by pedaling the feet as so. That's going to tighten the leg that's not being pedaled. Now, if you can get into a little bit more of a knees straight position than this, that is perfectly fine for me. That is where I was at on this particular day. We're going to follow that up with a little bit of light hip hinging into the full depth of the range and then popping back out of it. Should feel good after this. No strain on the posterior chain. The third phase of this is stability work. So here, we don't want to fire a cannon out of a canoe because we all know how that will end. So it's one thing to be floating along, sailing along, paddling along, but when we need to produce force, we need to have stability through key parts of the body. If we don't, we're going to be sloppy, and that's where the cannon out of the canoe analogy comes into play. So here, you're going to do 1 or 2 supersets of 2. And when I say superset, I mean you're going back and forth between one exercise and the second exercise. Exercise A, exercise B. Back and forth for 2 to 3 sets. And then if you've got that second round, it's going to be C and D, back and forth between those two for 2 to 3 sets. Now, a nugget here is that these should be challenging. They should get us into a fatigue state, but they should not be exhaustive. So we're not going to absolute failure. Let's say we're doing side planks and Copenhagen planks. We're not going to absolute failure on those. We want to have quality in our movement throughout the reps that we're doing. So here, we'll roll the tape on 2 supersets of stability work that you could add, tweak, and customize to you to make sure that you're getting ready for that key strength work. So at this point, we're looking at building readiness through our hip and pelvis mechanics, our key mobility, and our stability work. Now, after we run through that, we'll be ready for the key strength work. Side plank, elbows and knees with a side leg raise. This one helps if you're on the wall so that you can watch that alignment, making sure the shoulder's not dropping, making sure that your spine is not twisting. That'll help keep a really solid base for you to build strength in the back, in the hips, in the core.
Copenhagen side plank, knee on the box. So this is aimed at protecting the knee. It will also get the obliques harder. So you're going to get more tired in the torso. A big key here. So we've got to keep the pelvis and the hips in line with the torso and the thigh. So make sure that your butt is not drifting back toward the wall or whatever the hell it is that is behind you. And we are going to pop up and then execute a march. And there's 2 ways to do this. Check the comments. I'm going to give you a specific direction, but you do have options actually. The first is to pop and then march. So as you can see here, I'm getting into a stable position and then I'm executing the march. The key there is that I get my hips set up with my torso and my thigh. Then I'm going to drive up into that march there. Your other option is to do it all at once. It's not necessarily harder, but as you can see there, it's a little bit more difficult to sequence. So check the comments, but you have a little bit of wiggle room here.
Now, our key strength work is what I would call the meat of the workout. This is where we're going to dig our teeth in. If we're going to use that nautical analogy, we're building our vessel to last, and that vessel is our body. So here, we're going to have 4 main lifts. We're going to do 2 arms and 2 legs. Now, these arm lifts should be whole body and incorporate some of the things that we've worked on in stability, mobility, and hip and pelvis mechanics. It shouldn't be like biceps curls or triceps extensions. Now, you can do those. I have no problem with them. But in terms of this exercise framework, that's what we're going to look at, and that's what I'll show you. In terms of legs, we have 2 options. We've got double leg and we've got single leg. So how I will structure this and how I will show this is we'll do a single leg push or pull and a double leg push or pull. I typically like to do single leg push pull, double leg the opposite, pull or push. And then I structure the arm work around that. Push pull, same thing there with the arms. We have single leg and double leg options, and we want a good variety here. So we're not just smoking one muscle group. We want to get a well-rounded workout because ultimately that's what's going to be most effective for cycling versus smoking one muscle group, smoking another muscle group the next session, and now we're pedaling squares in between. The nugget here, and I've mentioned it before, is that we're not going to total failure. We don't need to do that. That will take us days to recover, and our ride quality will be really crappy. So now let's roll the tape on the 4 main exercises, 2 arms, 2 legs, taking into account the push-pull philosophy and the single leg, double leg, or single arm, double arm principle. This is a gorilla row. It's a wide stance row. So you'll get wide, nice easy row. After the first couple of reps, you're going to twist the spine as well. If the hip hinge feels pretty good, if you need to bring the ground up to you, use a stool or a box, something like that, so that you can push through the weight that you're not rowing comfortably. A goblet squat press is a weight held right at the chest to a full depth squat, as deep as you can handle. Knees are going over towards the toes there, and you're going to press out at the bottom. This one really does work the back extensors as well, so it might be surprising how tiring this one is. So again, you're going to full depth, and that weight's at the chest, and then I'm pressing straight outwards for the press. So from the side, we can see I've got good ground contact. I don't lose my heels. And that press there, my body weight will shift back a little bit, but I want to keep weight on the balls of my feet and drive those knees still towards the toes. Don't let yourself rock all the way back onto the heels. Your weight here is going to be like light to moderate. You're not trying to go super heavy, at least not right now. This is an overhead press from a wide sit position. Our goal is to get our hands over top of the torso, arms right above shoulders, and we're elongating our spine upwards here. Now, I've got the barbell. This very well may be a dumbbell start. It's easiest to demonstrate with the barbell, by the way. But dumbbell start perfectly fine. Weight should be manageable for the total reps here. You're going to see my head jut forward. That's perfectly fine as long as I'm not straining the neck, because I'm trying to engage my shoulder blades, get the bar or the dumbbells pushed as high as I can over my head while elongating both my thoracic and my lumbar spine. So I'm lifting throughout that spine. If that pushes head forward with no strain on the neck, that's perfectly fine. So we're probably starting with dumbbells here. Again, you need a manageable weight. Make sure they're moving at the same time. So here's our true kickstand RDL. We're looking at raw strength here. We're going to start with our weights on either side of the foot. We're going to make sure that our big toe stays down. So there will be a little bit of inward twist at the hip, actually. We don't want the knee to track outward. We drop the back leg back just as support, and we stand up. We bring it down. Stand up. We bring it down. These should be definitely more taxing. Now, here's a great example of a difference in hip mobility. You can see I correct there, but I really have to focus on keeping my hip engaged. A little bit of a corkscrew type motion inward. And yeah, again, I want the base of the big toe down. So difficult lift when we go heavy. Shouldn't be painful, but it should be hard. Okay, so now that we've run through it all, we've got something you can take with you. We've got a framework to identify why we want to lift, how we're going to measure success, and a 4-part workout that you can customize for yourself based on your goals. Look, we can have a little bit of trial and error here, but we want to start from a very confident place of strategic planning. So take some time to think through this stuff and apply it to the exercises that you're choosing so that you know it all goes together well and it's going to get you the result that you want to get.